Nice to have you with us on this Monday, 9th day of January, 2023, with the quietest CP in America. Will Folger today, John McVay today, Joy today is directing traffic. Great job by the Lions. Funny thing about the playoffs before we get to baseball, the two of the teams that you'd love to see in it didn't get in. Lions and Steelers. It's amazing. They're better than Seattle, and they're better than Miami. Yet both of them did not make it as far as 2023 is concerned. Good to have you aboard. Lots going on as we chat to you about what's cooking in the world of baseball here on this afternoon show. And we'll do a little monologue today, a little brushback on the wild card teams. Phillies made moves this weekend. Seattle made moves this weekend. With Pollock, Philadelphia got Soto, the reliever from Detroit, and away we go. I'm going to break the 6 of them from last year, and I'm sort of going to do a have-not, which is kind of crazy with the wild card, but 3 of the wild card teams are big market teams in a lot of ways, and that includes the Padres. The other 3, little small market. NL first, Phillies and Mets, and certainly, you know, the Mets could have won the division last year, so we would have circled back and put Atlanta in their spot, but the Phillies and the Mets, 2 huge market teams. The Mets payroll is, you know, is what it is. Who knows on Correa? I think you're going to find out in the next 2-3 days. Stu, relatively optimistic that he is going to be with the Mets at the end of the day. I know there was a lot of frustration on Friday. We'll see how that moves along here in these next 2. But, I mean, the Phillies and the Mets, of course, these are big market clubs. The Mets made a lot of moves. Now, a lot of the Mets moves they made was sort of replenishing moves. Verlander for DeGrom. They obviously had Nimmo last year. So we go back and bring him back to the team. Now, Correa is an addition. Diaz they had last year. He's an addition, Correa, but this is not quite done yet. But the Mets are the Mets. I mean, it's a very good team. They have, top end of the rotation's excellent. Their season starts in October. It does not start April. They've taken a little joy out of the regular season. The Mets are not going to be the charming, 62 Casey Stengel Mets. That's always been their montage. That's over with now. I mean, now they got to win, and we wait till October to see if they do. But the Mets are a very, very big team. I mean, I know Buck doesn't like that, Showalter, but that is fact. The Mets season starts October 5th. There's no debate it. That's when it starts. And the Phillies, along the same way. I mean, obviously, they had that great surprise last year, came out of nowhere, won all those playoff games, had the Astros in big trouble, up 2-1, did it without Harper, unexpected, which was always the most fun. Now it's expected. So now a little of the charm runs off and moves off Philadelphia, too. They made a lot of moves. Obviously, they gave $300 million to Turner. Harper will return after he misses the first couple of months with the torn rotator, whatever it is, the shoulder, the major surgery, the Tommy John. They bring Soto in to help their bullpen. Listen, it's a good team. I mean, the Phillies are a very, very good team. Do I think they're great? No, because I don't know if they have the depth of starting pitching that obviously the Mets do. And Nola and Wheeler are not as good as Scherzer and DeGrom and Verlander, but the Phillies are a very, very good team. Should score a ton of runs. Turner's going to add an element to him. Harper does return. But again, their season's not going to start until October either from that standpoint. San Diego, a little different. San Diego, they're not used to the winning in San Diego on a day-in, day-out basis. It's not as demanding a market as the Mets and the Phillies, so the Padres are in a little different boat than their Eastern teams are, but they're a big market team, too. How much money can you spend? Padres go out there, and they obviously bring in Bogarts to team with Machado. They get Tatis back eventually. I'm assuming he'll be, he'll be well-behaved. He won't mess around with anything that's artificial. And, he's got a little something to prove, which is always like you want your athletes. You love them having something to prove. Tatis, if he's the athlete we think he is and the player we think he is, will use that, obviously, as an advantage. They have very good starting pitching. Now, they got the Dodgers in their division, and it's not like the Padre fan is going to want necessarily to win the NL West. The Padre fan right now is a little more satiated than, say, the Met fan is or the Philly fan is, especially the Met fan who lost and Braves caught them. Padres beat the Dodgers last year. So if the Padres don't win the NL West, it's not the end of the world because they didn't win the NL West last year and they had the last laugh. So, but still, Padres season a little bit like the Mets, a little bit like the Phillies. That begins late in the year as well in October. American League, the teams, from a wild card perspective are a little different. Seattle's first. They're going to be a very trendy team as far as deciding, almost like the Lions are in football. They're going to be a very trendy team next year because obviously they had a wonderful year this past year. Gave the Astros a bigger challenge than most people thought. Could have won that series despite getting swept. They have excellent starting pitching, and they made additions to their offensive team. So they're going to be very good. Seattle, tough division. They're on the come. I don't think they did win a playoff series last year. I'm not sure if those fans in the Pacific Northwest expect a championship, but they expect a good season. Seattle's in a good place right now. The winning is new. They don't have a $500 million payroll. They got a taste of it last year. Market's a little soft from an expectation standpoint. Seattle's in a very, very good place. And as is Tampa, as usual, nobody expects a whole bunch from Tampa. They brought Eflin in. We know how, he could be a factor. What Tampa's done, folks, is an easy one. They obviously have made their bullpen the focal point of the team. They have a lot of good young pitchers, but they got a million guys in that bullpen who get them through 162 games and don't cost a lot of money. And they're all good. They're all very, very interchangeable. They got 9,000 different closers. They got a manager who knows how to work it well, and that makes up for the fact they don't have a lot of major offensive stars, with the exception of Franco, who's coming off a bad year, a lot of injuries and everything else. Tampa's a team that very little is expected, very little pressure from their fan base, not a ton of fans to begin with, terrible market, I don't care what anybody says, bad stadium, I don't care what anybody says, I'm not even sure if baseball can make it long-term in Tampa. They seem to think it can. I really differ with that. But the bottom line is Tampa right now is in a situation where, they got a good team. They got good ownership. They got a very good front office, and they have figured out a way to maneuver with a small payroll. They'll be in the mix again for the playoffs in the American League with no expectations, which is where you want to be. And then that leaves us Toronto, sort of in between a Seattle and the Mets. Big market, spend money, but they're not astronomical like the Yankees might be, like the like the Mets might be, like the Phillies might be, like the Dodgers might be. They're a little different. Good team. Obviously, a very disappointing two-game ouster with Seattle in the playoffs. More is going to be expected than that this year. Season doesn't begin in October. It's not like they've won that much. But the Blue Jays, if they win 100 games and get knocked out early, nobody's going to care. They will have to win some games in October this year. They have great young players in Bichette and Guerrero. Let's see if they get both of them signed long-term. I would think they got a good chance to do that. But who knows? You never know with markets, and these guys want to play out their free agency and, go to a different kind of location. That could play into it. We'll see if Toronto can get them signed. But the Blue Jays brought in Bassett, who's going to help their rotation. They got pretty good starting pitching anyway. They'd be a good team. Are they going to be a great team? No. Do they have the expectation level of Seattle? More. Do they have this same expectation level as a Met fan? A little less. They're sort of in the middle there. Toronto, Tampa, and the Mariners in the American League, the wild card scenarios. I think that, I don't think Tampa will make it this year. I think Toronto and Seattle have an excellent chance of getting to the postseason. Phillies, the Mets, and San Diego. And I have no reason to think that all three won't go in next year. Remember, in the National League, you get a big advantage because only one team is going to make the playoffs in the NL Central. So as a result of that, you got 5 other spots from 2 other divisions because you don't have to worry about it. It's just the Cardinals. Cubs aren't making the playoffs. Just the Cardinals. So from that standpoint, that helps the Phillies. That helps the Mets. Helps San Diego. I'd expect all 3 again make it in 2023. That is where we begin. Afternoon program on this Monday, the 9th day of January. Alana's aboard. She says hello. Ms. Rizzo, take it away. Go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. I am not willing to determine who's going to make it into the postseason yet in 2023. Not willing to say that on January 9th. I will leave that up to you. But what is at top of mind for me, Chris, is Liam Hendriks and his wife, Christy, and the entire Hendriks family, as well as the Chicago White Sox organization. Yesterday, the Chicago White Sox closer, Liam Hendriks, announced on his own personal Instagram page that he has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he is actually starting treatment today. He said he was recently diagnosed diagnosed with it. Hearing the word cancer came as a shock to him and his wife, as it does to millions of families each year. His treatment begins today. He's confident that he will make a full recovery, be back on the mound as soon as possible. He turns 34 a month from tomorrow. He joined the White Sox via free agency prior to the 2021 season. He has been a force in their bullpen, but also, I think more importantly, is what he and his wife Christy have done in the community. In fact, when Liam Hendriks was a free agent, he made sure to ask every front office what the ability was for him to be as involved as possible in the community. He and his wife have done tremendous work in the community, philanthropic work in the city of Chicago, on the south side, of course. He's from Australia. He's a great guy, a lot of fun to be around. We know what he does on the Hill. His wife also equally as wonderful, giving back to the community. So our thoughts, our prayers are with Liam Hendriks and his wife Christy, as he just found out a few days ago that he is dealing with this non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Treatment starts today. So of course, top of mind is his health and his safety and his recovery and getting back to baseball, which he loves. But more importantly, and it's not just us saying that, of course, here at MLB Network, but the Chicago White Sox organization issuing a statement, too, that they're thinking about him as a person first before they think of him as a player. They are confident that he will be able to get through this and that he will be able to pitch for them whenever he is viable and healthy to do so. So our thoughts are with Liam Hendriks as the news of him having cancer comes out just yesterday.